By this time we have understood how do I declare a structure, how do I create variables of the structure, and how do I access the members of the structure, along with the current basic, that is structure initialization. Now what we need to do is we need to merge all these components and create our first program related to structures. Now let us see how I am going to use all these three parts and put it in a programming format. Let us try to implement a program on structure. Now I'll take again the basic example of student itself. So I wish to write the details of, or read the details of students, and I'm supposed to display the details in a tabular form. Now, irrespective of the number of students, the students may be 100 or 50 or a number, I will always define a structure for only one student. So what I'll do is I'll create a structure for one student and create multiple copies by defining them as an array. So I'll say int r as roll number, n as name, and p as percentage. If you wish, you can take lengthy names also. So it means that the structure declaration will always be after the header file and before the main. Even you can define this particular structure at this place also, in the main also. If I define a structure, or if I declare a structure in main, then in that case it will be a local structure, and if I define it before main and after the header files, then it will be called as a global structure. The place doesn't make any difference until unless you use the concept of functions. If you're going to use the concepts of functions, then probably the local structure and global structure might make a bit of difference. Otherwise, there is no difference between a local structure which is defined within main or a global structure which is defined before main. So now, for simplicity, what I'll do is I define a structure as student after the header files and before the main. And within main, what I'll do is I'll create variables of this particular structure as struct student s of 50. So it means that I wish to write a program to read the details of 50 students and display the details of 50 students. Since I'm going to use arrays, I'll take a variable as int I, which is nothing but a simple local variable. So it means that structure declaration has to be done first, then I'm supposed to create structure variables so that a memory gets allocated for this, and then I'm supposed to start using this particular code. Now, if I had to read the details of all the 50 students, so it means that I have to read the details into s of 0, s of 1, s of 2 till s of 49. So in general, I'll say I'm going to read it into s of I, and I'm going to run a loop for I equal to 0, I less than equal to 49, I plus plus. I'll say that I will read the name, roll number, and percentage. Now, don't be under concept that if roll number is declared first, I have to read roll number itself. No. The members can be declared in any order. They can be read in any order. When it comes to initialization, in that case, the sequence should match. When it comes to reading values, the sequence doesn't make much difference. So what I'll do is I'll say for I equal to 0, I less than equal to 49, I plus plus, I'll read the values. First I'll put a message, enter the name, roll number, and percentage of marks of student I plus 1. For the user, the first student will be 1. So for the arrays, the first student will be with I equal to 0. So 0 plus 1 is 1. So I'll say student 1. For the second student, it will be displayed as student 2. For the third student, it will be displayed as student 3. So I'm prompting the user with a message to display to enter the name, percentage of marks and roll number. Name will be a string, since what I'll do is I'll use a getS function for doing this particular task. If you wish, you can even use a scanf with the percentage s specifier. The limitation of percentage s specifier is that you cannot enter blank spaces with the name. If you feel that there are blank spaces with the name, in that case scanf percentage s will not be an appropriate solution. For that we need to go for getS. So I'll say getS s of I dot n. Scanf percentage d percentage f, that will be integer for roll number and float for percentage, ampersand of s of I dot r and ampersand of s of I dot p. So I have read the name of 50 students. If you are practicing this particular code onto your computers, preferably take this value less. I have considered 50 values. It means that this program will not allow me to proceed further unless and until I enter one of 50 values, because one student will have 3 data. So I am asking you to do it for 50 students. So in that case it will be a tedious job. So if you are practicing, take 3 or 4 students maximum. So I equal to 0, I less than equals to 3 or I less than equal to 2, that will be sufficient so that you can test this particular code. What we have done is we have only read this particular details. Now if I ask you to display these details back to the user in a tabular form, for example, there is a tabular column. In the first part I wish to have a name, and then second part I wish to have roll number, and third part I wish to have percentage, something of that sort. So how do I do this? So what I'll do is I'll put the details of students are. I'll just display a message. This is a continuation of this particular code itself. Rather than moving on to the next slide, I have accommodated this particular program in one slide itself. So first read the values and then display the values. For displaying, what I'll do is I'll say the details of the students are, I'll just flash one message. Beneath that I'll have name as the first part, spaces followed by roll number, followed by space, and then followed by percentage. It means that the first part will be name, then there will be some spaces, then there will be roll number, and then there will be percentage. I have to display such 50 details. For that I'll have for I equal to 0, I less than equal to 49, I plus plus, printf percentage s. This is for a name. With scanf we have this particular limitation of not having spaces, but with printf percentage there is no limitation. You can display the entire array or entire string with spaces or without space also. /t will help us to get those spaces. Even at this place also, name followed by these spaces can be eliminated by saying name /t roll number. Second, percentage d is for integer value, and third, percentage f is for the percentage value is for the float value. So at the first instant s of I dot n will be displayed, second instant s of I dot r will be displayed, and the third instant s of I dot p will be displayed. Since I wish to have all these details on separate lines, I'll add up a /n at the end so that all the 50 details will be displayed on the separate part. So what we did was we first declared a structure, then we created the variables of this particular structure, and I have created 50 variables, and then I'll ask you to read the values of these details and then display these details. Now what if I had to put some condition? For example, in this code I have displayed name, roll number and percentage of every student who is available. What if I wish to know the details of only those students who have scored more than 70%, right? So now let's try and modify the same code. Now this is a second program where I am going to modify the previous one itself. As usual, the first part will still remain same because I had to read the details. For that I had to declare a structure, then I will have to create these structure variables, then I had to read the values. I've read the name, roll number and percentage of every student. Now I had to display the name, roll number and percentage of only those students whose percentage is more than 70. So it means that I had to put some condition at this place. details of the students, name, roll number, percentage, everything still remains as it is. I have to still scan every student because I don't have any idea which specific student number has scored more than 70, right? So what I'll do is, for that I'll say if when I is 0, test S of 0, when I is 1, test S of 1, S of 0 dot P. If the percentage of marks scored by that particular student is more than 70, then display his details. If this condition is false, you will not be doing this particular task. If this condition is true, then only you will do this particular task. If this condition is false, go back and test with the next student details. Any student whose details are found to be greater than or equal to 70, that particular details will be displayed on screen. Clear? So you can try out different programs. On the structure cricketer which we have written, you can again read the details of the cricketers. So you declare a structure called as cricket at this place, create maximum cricketers, say 100, and you can ask the user how many cricketers are there. Read that value as n, and you can say for I equal to 0, I less than equal to n also. You can put a limitation saying that maximum can be 100, but if you want to do it for just 2 cricketers or 5 cricketers or 10 cricketers, you can have I equal to 0, I less than equals to n minus 1, I plus plus, where n is the number of cricketers. Read the details and you can apply the conditions as per your choice. Suppose if you want to know the cricketers who have hit more than 20 centuries, as per the previous example, more than 20 centuries, you can try that also. If I wish to know the details of employees, only those details of employees whose salary is less than 10,000. Try out these statements. Complete the task, and then you can continue with the next video.